Hey guys, so let's talk about the Mandela effect for a second. Pretty sure I found a new one, and when I say pretty sure, I mean I'm sure I found a new one because when I bring up a new Mandela effect, I don't bring up ones that I'm not sure about. And buddy, there are a lot of Mandela effects out there. There are, I don't know how many there are because the entire world, the entire fabric of reality is shifting around us at all times constantly. And I don't know if it's happening faster now, the further along in history we get, the crazier things in this world become, the more human consciousness is messed with, the more of these black magic spells that this system performs on us, the closer we get to some sort of Christian singularity, in my opinion. Or if it's just always been like this and this is actually the nature of reality and we're just more aware of it now and we notice these things and there's some sort of awakening process happening where we had all of this stuff happening all around us for the entire time that we were growing up and we just see it now. We can, the scales have dropped from our eyes, the veils have been lifted, and we can just see it better now. I don't know. My gut tells me that this is more like something that is happening at a faster and faster pace now. So I found what for me is a solid memory of a word that I'm very familiar with because when I was in college, and in my entire life, I've been interested in the English language. I'm very adept at using the English language. It's my strongest talent. It's my best gift. I don't have a lot of other talents. My mom and my brother can draw really well. I wasn't gifted with that. Wasn't strong growing up. I was a little skinny, weak guy. I have to work really hard for whatever I do. I don't have any innate, real advantages over too many other people, but I know how to speak and I know how to read and write. And so when it comes to the English language, I know what I'm doing and I pay attention to things and I notice things. And so when there are these changes in the English language, I'm a little bit more attuned to them than a lot of people are. And this word, diphthong, I used to be quite the dilettante when I was in college, and I studied so many different languages. But when you do that, you have to know a lot about grammatical construction. You have to know a lot of terms. You have to know a lot of meanings because if you don't, then you won't understand what you're looking at when you're looking at a language different than your own. Now, of course, diphthongs also help you. Diphthongs, right now, the word has never been diphthong in this reality. The word we are discussing right now is diphthong. And I just recently discovered this new word diphthong, which is Dipthth, a PH followed by a TH, if that's not strange enough. ONG. When I was doing the research for the current Paranormies episode that we're going to do this weekend on the language reset, particularly the English language great reset. And this one video I watched, it's a Scottish, I think he's Scottish guy, and he starts talking about diphthongs. And I'm like, what are diphthongs? And I thought, well, that must be the Scottish variation of the word diphthong, because I know what a diphthong is. And I know what he's referring to when he says diphthong because it's close enough that it must be the same word that he's referring to. Plus, he was referring to it in context. It's when, you know what I should do? I should look up the definition real quick just so that we can verify. We'll go to dictionary.com just so that we can verify that the word in question, I'll look up the word as it is now, diphtheria, and we'll look up the etymology. Here it is. Now, it did, let's see, Latin diphthongus, Middle English. Okay, so in Middle English, apparently, it was diphthong, but not while it's in English. And the Latin has a PH in it, and the Greek has a PH in it. So this right now, this is already interesting, okay? The root word here, the root late Latin, which I guess the Greek came from the late Latin, that's how this works? No, the Greek was the first. So the Greek original word, was diphthongos, which is literally having two sounds, di plus thongos. So the ph is inherent in the word from the beginning, and the phth is in the word from the beginning. Now, before you go thinking this is a gotcha, as some people were already commenting in my chat, I'm going to get to this, okay? And then in the Greek as well, it has a ph followed by a th. This is the first time I'm looking at this, okay? I promise you. And now I just noticed the first iteration of the word in English, and this is a really interesting topic that we're going to be bringing up on the Paranormies this weekend, is how all of the English language has its origin around 1300, 1400 or so. And there are no words before then. These words just appeared out of nowhere in the 1400s. But you'll notice the first iteration of this word, it's the same word. Look at this word. Look at this word. This is the same word. But for some reason, the first iteration of this word does not have an H. Now, is that a slam dunk? No, not yet, but trust me, I'm going to get to it. But the root does have the PH and the PH. And okay, so there's the root of the word, and everybody's going to tell me, oh, well, see, it always had the PH because there's a Greek, in the original ancient Greek, it had the PH, and, it's from phthongos, and that's the word that it derives from. Yeah, I know. There's a story. I know there's a backstory to every Mandela effect. Again, this is not how the Mandela effect works. I know that it's always been this word right here with the PH and the TH, because that is how the Mandela effect works. Are you following me? If you're not following me with what I'm saying right now, I want you to tag me in my chat and say, hey, I don't understand that part, and I'll explain it better. Because I don't want to weigh the whole video down with just me explaining what Mandela effect is to people who should understand what Mandela effect is. But just real quick, in my reality, it never had this H right here. It was always dip followed by thong. Now, back in that reality, I didn't go and look at the etymology and record it and remember it or any of that. So sorry, I can't dig up that evidence, because that evidence, by definition, because it's the Mandela effect, has never existed in this reality. But here's the interesting thing about the Mandela effect. We don't rely just on our memories. So whenever people say, oh, it's faulty memory, it's not just our memories that we're relying upon. However, our memories are very reliable. And all of those articles that the same system that lies to you about everything else, the same system that vaunts scientism as its religion, that system, the same system that puts those articles, the same system that puts all that stuff out is putting out articles saying, well, your memory is very faulty and you can't trust your memory at all. You definitely shouldn't trust your memory. We remember all these crazy things. Oh yeah, people remember when they were sexually abused, and that did happen with ritualistic satanic abuse, so that's a bad example, but the system does constantly put out articles, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, saying that our memories are unreliable, when I think that a lot of those articles are put out because our memories are actually very reliable, and they don't want us to realize how reliable our memories really are, because then when we start noticing things that are changing all around us, we'll realize that we live not in a material realm, but in a supernatural realm. And if we live in a supernatural realm, then their entire religion of science falls apart around them, doesn't it? And they no longer have any control over us, and we start looking to God, which is the whole purpose. And the entire purpose of the religion of scientism is to take one's eyes off of God. So with that out of the way, let's go to this word. When I was a kid, I'm just going to go back on this. When I was a kid, this word was dipthong. When I was a college student in the 90s, and I studied Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, French, Esperanto, yes I did, Russian, Latin. Those are the ones off the top of my head. I probably studied, I probably studied a few more too. What did I say? I said most of them. But I studied all those languages. I had different books on all those languages. I spent copious amounts of time trying to learn those languages. I spent time studying the Cyrillic alphabet, trying to learn it. I can read a lot of it now, not all of it. Most of it's gone. I spoke fluent Spanish when I was in high school. I was bilingual. Spoke very fluent Spanish in high school. I can't speak it now, but I can understand it quite well. And if you gave me about 3 or 4 days in Mexico, I've proven this to myself because when I've visited Mexico, it's proven to be true. I'll speak fluently again after the third day. So I can speak extremely fluent Japanese. I can read and write Japanese. So I know a little thing. I know a thing or two about language study and about grammar. My profession is an English teacher. I have to teach grammar. I've taught it for over 2 decades now. I know a thing or two about a thing or two when it comes to words and grammar. And I know what a diphthong is. And I know what I remember. And I know I didn't remember any PH followed by a TH because that would have looked weird then. And I know how to read a PH and I know how to read a TH. And I wouldn't make that sort of elementary, dumbass, retarded mistake. So let's just go through a little bit of residue because this is the most interesting part of the Mandela effect. It's not reliant solely upon our memories. The evidence for the Mandela effect exists not only in our memory, but more importantly, for the people who don't believe it and who have a different memory than our own, it's in the residue. And the residue is evidence of the exact thing, the exact spelling that we all remember that exists still today that's not the actual thing itself. So usually if it's something like, if it's the thinker statue, the statue itself and photographs of the statue will not have the fist to the forehead. It'll have the fist splayed out. It's not a fist anymore. It's under the chin. But people who make parodies of it, people who took a picture in front of it, people who do drawings of it, people who do skits doing the pose, bodybuilders who do the pose, they'll do the old pose that all of us remember, and that's called residue. Particularly pictures that I have of people standing right in front of the thinker statue doing the pose that we all remember when the thinker statue now has a completely different pose. He's doing a completely different pose. So that's called residue. I'm going to take you through some residue with this diphthong thing today, and we can see what you think after. At minimum, I think you ought to think about what the hell's going on if you don't believe that reality is shifting and changing all around us right now as we speak. So let's get into it. So first thing is this album. This is some band, and this is the band's name. The band's name is Dipthong. You can look these guys up on Amazon. And they had this nice album art done. Looks like they busted into a house. There's a little light switch here, some wiring, some lathing. It shines through to a window. And they stencil spray painted their title, which obviously they had custom made with all the you see the little parts that stick out here, and it's a stylized lettering and stuff. So they would have had the stencil custom made for them. And this is their album. They have sorry, I'm not going to go to. They have like 7 songs. I don't know the album. And you could argue, okay, well maybe they are doing a play on words, and actually their diphthong means like, you know, somebody was going skinny dipping, but they kept their last piece of underwear on or something like that. Okay, maybe I'll give you that, but we're not done. Okay, so let's just say though that they made a mistake, and the actual word is diphthong with a PH here. Well, they had a whole title label design, a whole stencil design. They had the album completely designed for them. They named their band this. They put out this album. They had, I assume they had shows and stuff. They would have had a lot of fans. Don't you think somebody at some point would have been like, hey guys, you know, how come there's no H in your band name? Seems like it's the most important thing about yourselves. You know, what's the reason for there being no H? Again, I don't know this band, so there literally could be a reason. So I don't know, but it seems very interesting that there's a band called Dipthong and it's not called Dipthong. There's no band called Dipthong that I could find. There is a band called Dipthong, just as we all remember. And interestingly, the title of this song is Stealing Our Way into Thought. So, I don't believe in coincidences, okay, guys? All right, so let's get into... So I went to Google. This is not the one yet. Sorry, this is going to take me just a second. So I went into Google Images, and I put in diphthong. It's interesting. If you put the quotes around diphthong, it's very hard to find words that are spelled this way, but if you just put it without the quotes, you get a lot. And I mean a lot. And again, this is not the slam dunk stuff, so just bear with me for just a second, okay? But all of these things, I want you to pay attention. Here's diphthong. I'm just going to start taking you through where I see. Here's diphthong. You will see diphthong as well. But here's diphthong. Diphthong. Somebody spent a lot of time putting this together. Diphthong right here. This says diphthong here, but up here it says diphthong. Isn't that interesting? This is the way the Mandela effect works many times. Is the original thing will change. It'll update. But the description will not update. You notice how that happens? So, and again, I want you to notice, they don't forget the H here, because it could just as easily be diphthong. Someone told me that that's what it is in German, diphthong, and some other languages. But the H that's missing is always the H that I never remember being there in the first place, always. Okay, here's another one, diphthong. Diphthong here is, again, the description has no H here, but there's the H. It's updated in the graphic. This one, graphic, has diphthong here, diphthong. Somebody put a lot of work into this. Diphthong, diphthong. Somebody put a lot of work into these. They spent a lot of time. And what I want you to keep in mind is every single one of these graphics that somebody put all this work into, they're related to grammar. That means an English teacher put these together, and every English teacher who put all these graphics together that would have taken, I don't know how much time, but it would have taken time and labor, and then you're putting your product, your at least your piece of work out there for people, and then you would, if you're an English teacher, are you going to spend all this time putting together this thing full of graphics that's teaching how to use a certain word, a certain grammatical form, which is these vowel sounds together, and you're going to get the fucking word wrong? You're going to spell the original fucking word wrong over and over and over? Does that sound normal to you? This one, I can keep going. This is the top, but it goes on and on and on. Diphthong here. Somebody put all that together. You know, this is not like a small amount of work to put together. Here's a little slideshow. They're explaining that a diphthong is a combination of two vowel sounds, so they can get all that right. I mean, I would say two vowel sounds. So I mean, they do make mistakes, but still, diphthong. They get the title wrong. Diphthong, title wrong. Okay, right? Still, you might argue with me that no, that's, it's not enough, because all these, they could just all be making, maybe everybody makes that mistake. Maybe it's just a consciousness thing. Everybody just makes that mistake. Okay, all right, that's cool, man. I do want to see if I can find this one thing where I found monopthong and tripthong. There's things that are back formations too. Here it is. Monopthong and tripthong. I remember tripthongs too. I didn't know about a monopthong. I think that's just called a vowel, but maybe there's an actual definition for what that is. But you'll notice that somebody put these together too. So this is not only one, but two, three PTHs instead of PHTH. And again, PHTH is very unique. I don't think that there's any other word in the English language. I can't think of another word that would have a PH followed by a TH. There's no CH, TH, SH, PH, TH, and CH. And they never come together as far as I know, except now in this new, to me, word, diphthong. Here's diphthong again. Okay, so I've gone on about that. Now, here's the interesting thing that you do when you want to find some really good actual residue for the Mandela effect, is what you do is you go to Google Books. And this is where you get your good stuff, okay? Now, what these are actual books that have been scanned into the Google library, and the scanned pages are available. So these books were published, these were printed and published, and they are, unfortunately, many of them are very extremely expensive and out of most people's price range, but Google has done us the service of allowing us to forego the rare book room and forego the $1,600 price tag and be able to take a look at these books on our own. And they're scans, they're computer scans of the books. So whatever's in those books, you can see it right here. So I started looking. I was like, well, let's do a little search for diphthong. And of course, Google's trying to correct me right here to diphthong. But interestingly enough, when you start looking at these books, and let me tell you, all these books are about English grammar. And many of them were published, well, at a time when English grammar was much more strictly adhered to, and the general consensus of human people, of everyone, the general public had a much better grasp of proper grammar. They were much more literate than we are now. And so a mistake like this, it would have been very unlikely for such a glaring mistake to escape the publisher and the editor and the customer, the reader's eyes, and then to go on to be published in multiple prints, okay? But over and over and over, as I'm about to show you, in grammar books where they're teaching English grammar, the word that I remember, that more people remember than the word as it exists according to my poll on my Telegram channel, well, they remember diphthong, as we all do. But this word, I mean, I guess somebody's fallen for the Mandela effect psyop, because this word has never existed in this reality. I mean, except perhaps in Middle English in the 1400s. But in modern English, since we've been speaking English that most of us have the ability to read and recognize in English, it's always had this PH. Let's take a look. This is from that very first book. This is the English language book. And I won't spend too long on it. You guys are going to get the idea real quick. Okay, the book is about English grammar, and this chapter, well, it's about orthography. This is how letters go together, how phonemes go together, how sounds go together. And he's talking about diphthongs, not diphthongs, diphthong, 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 over and over and over. And I mean, if you want to look at this guy, he's familiar with Latin. He knows what a tripthong is. It also does not have an H. I don't see anything about monopthongs in here, but he's familiar with the Greek. He knows how it was written originally. He knows his language. And buddy, this guy, I mean, somebody should have told this guy, if you know everything so well, then why are you getting this word wrong over and over and over and over and over again? But people just say, oh, Skull, I remember. You're just remembering it wrong. The Greek root of the word, it's right there. Let's look at some more of these books. Here's another one. This one. Now, prosody. I mean, this book is breaking down how songs are put together. And buddy, this is some high-level English here, okay? Let's just look at this. Hitherto we have spoken of three branches of poetry and their appurtenances, namely domestic singing, strolling minstrelsy, and poetry. We will now proceed to relate the triads of song. Song is subject to three common faults: violation of meter, bad sense, and incorrect expression. There are three violations of meter: long and short, excessive rhymes, false rhyme. There are three kinds of bad sense: want of soul, false imagination, and irrelevancy. There are three incorrect expressions: that in which a singular and a plural, that in which a masculine and a feminine, and that in which present and absent severally occur together. Well, you know what? There's also three wrong words, but you only have one of them. Monopthong, diphthong, and tripthong. And you're saying diphthong, 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 diphthong. Somebody should have told this guy, like, he only thinks he knows speech really well because he's got this word dead wrong because it's got an H in it, and he's not putting it in there. Oh, man, somebody should have told him. I mean, look how many times this guy uses the word diphthong when he's talking about estranged syllables. A strange diphthong. Well, yeah, it is strange. It doesn't have an H in it like it's supposed to. I mean, he's using words like counterchanges and liquisparison. I don't even know what that is. Sparcison? Liquisparcison? Rotundison diphthong? A wandering diphthong? I mean, this guy knows his diphthongs. I didn't know any of these diphthongs even existed. But I mean, they don't exist because there's no such thing as a diphthong in this reality because it's never been a diphthong in this reality. It's always been a diphthong. But somehow this guy, he knows what he's talking about when it comes to, I mean, the first half of the word, but just not the base thing that the entire category is talking about. Let's look at another one. This one also is an English grammar book. And let's see if I can jump off of it for a second. I can't. This one's also English grammar. You can see versification, meter, rhyme, accentuation. We're talking about grammar here. And what does he do? Well, there's a difficulty in the accentuation of diphthongs. And he goes on and on. You can pause it and read it if you want, but I have them all highlighted for you. Diphthong, 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 diphthong. Somebody should have told this grammar teacher that he didn't know what the word that he's teaching about is. And the publisher, and all the editors, and all the teachers who use the book to teach this stuff, and all the students who were reading the word diphthong somewhere else, and only in this book was it wrong. Somebody should have told this guy. There's another book. This one, it doesn't have it highlighted, but I found it. And this book, what was this book about? Stones That Speak. So some of you guys might be saying, okay, well, you know what, Skull, you were talking about that book. Let me see if I can find it. You're talking about these books, but they're from 1800s and stuff, right? They're from a long time ago. So maybe that Middle English hadn't quite caught up to it. Okay, that's fine. You think that. So I decided to find a book from 2010. And again, this book is about grammar. It's about words. It's very detailed about words, and it's about words in different languages. So you really need to know what you're talking about when you're what's the word? When you're explicating upon these types of things. This is one that's called Stones That Speak. It's published in 2010. Okay, so we'll go back to old Stones That Speak. Let's just read it real quick. Let's just read a little bit. Hold on. Where did I go? Where did the diphthong go? Here. So we're talking, I mean, look how detailed, look how technical this is. We're talking about spelling conventions of Greek words. Okay, and I believe this is ancient Greek because he's talking about Stones That Speak. It's the history of the language, and he gets into detail. Like Linear B, Cypriot also does not have signs for all the sounds in the Greek language, so he knows what he's talking about. For instance, the K series of signs not only represent syllables starting with K, but also G and KH. Similarly, P signs stand for initial P, B, and PH. Oh, there's a PH. And T signs for initial T, D, and TH, so he knows what a PH is, interestingly enough. Once again, as in Linear B, all signs except for the vowel-only signs in Cypriot represent syllables in the forms. Do you see how technical this is? So blah, 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 and then he goes on to talk about diphthongs. Diphthongs? What are those? Those don't even exist. The correct word is a diphthong. I don't know. Maybe this guy's falling for the psyop. Let's see what else we got in here. This one is about... Okay, so I wanted to show you this again. I don't remember which book this is, but you can see that the footnotes are from the 80s, 1982. Here's 1996. So this book at the latest was created in the 90s, which was when I had my experience with diphthongs before they changed to diphthongs. And he also doesn't know what the fuck a diphthong is. And this dummy is writing the wrong word. In his book about, what's his book about? Latin? Yeah, his book about Latin texts and Romance languages. And a bunch of different, he's got these, the imperial world, and I mean, geez, dude, text and history. This guy, let's see, can I see what the, just look real quick. But anyway, he's talking about something that doesn't even exist, diphthongs. And it's not the only time. Oh, look at this, all these footnotes. These guys are talking about diphthongs too. These are from the footnotes. This is Sergius and Servius, North African Sergius and Servius. I think they're from the Roman times or something. I don't know, but they don't know what a diphthong is either, and they're using this made-up word as well. I can go on and on if this is another one from 2005. You can see right here, I got this one from 2005. Diphthong, 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 diphthong. 2005 is not even that long ago. And what's this? Oh, this is just back to the definition. The diphthong is a what is it? It's a gliding speech sound, varying continuously in phonetic quality, but held to be a single sound or phoneme, and identified by its apparent beginning and ending sound is the sound oi. If you'll notice, oi is two vowel sounds. It's o and e, and they are combined together, as in the sound of toi or boil, boil. Yeah, and if you look up the word diphthong, well, you can see that that word doesn't exist, and it never has. Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't believe that the Mandela effect is real, then please, I'm begging you, provide me an explanation for this.